So is this the week Fox so-called news faces its reckoning? This is a fascinating question. This is one of those things where you notice these obscure little articles. This was in the Financial Times last Friday, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. When Rupert Murdoch divorced his second wife, and I think he's on, what, number 4 now, and he's sparking with number 5? I'm not sure, maybe 6. But anyhow, when Rupert divorced his second wife, he didn't want her to be able to lay claim to, he gave her a generous settlement, but he didn't want her to be able to lay claim to his business empire, apparently. And so he created a family trust and put Fox News and several of the other major Fox properties, about $15 billion worth of stuff, into this trust. And so now it's owned by the Murdoch family and run by Rupert. But after he dies, and he's 92 years old right now, after he dies, the assets in the trust will be administered by his 4 children, James, Prudence, Elizabeth, and Lachlan. And here's the rub. The only one, keep in mind, this little newspaper empire that Sir Keith Murdoch started in the early 20th century in Australia, and Sir Keith was famous for his racism and his misogyny. And his newspaper was inherited by his son Rupert, who built it into a multi-continental, multinational empire. Again, using hate and misogyny and sensationalism and, page 6 girls. To the point that the former Prime Minister of Australia, Kevin Rudd, wrote a piece in the Sydney Morning Herald, kind of the New York Times of Australia, literally calling Rupert Murdoch a cancer on Australian democracy. Well, that cancer, first subsumed Australian democracy. Murdoch owns about 2/3 of all the papers in the country. And then it went to the United Kingdom, where he now owns the Times of London and a bunch of tabloids, and I believe Sky News. I could be wrong on that, but I think he's got a television network there too. And then he came to the United States, where he started Fox News and bought the Wall Street Journal and the New York Post and all this kind of stuff. And and Kevin Rudd points out, to the former Prime Minister of Australia, points out that Murdoch is behind Brexit in the United Kingdom, which has badly damaged the United Kingdom's economy, and that Murdoch was behind the election of Donald Trump in the United States, and you can see the kind of damage that did to us. Had there not been Fox, there wouldn't, Donald Trump wouldn't have had a chance. So anyhow, what's going on is that of the 4 children who are going to inherit this thing when Rupert dies, 3 of them disagree with Fox's programming philosophy. They just don't think it's a good idea, business-wise or moral-wise or politics-wise or whatever. Only James is pretty much on the record about this, but basically they don't think it's a good idea to be constantly lying to the people who are watching Fox News and keeping them in information bubbles that keeps them in a state of constant rage. Yes, it improves the profitability of the companies. They'll acknowledge that, because people just end up addicted to the adrenaline jolts that they get every single time they get infuriated, with some new lie, some new outrage. Oh my God, the children are going to school and coming home with surgery, and they've changed their genders. It's the election was stolen by a voting machine company that's owned by Hugo Chavez. It cranks them up. Well, Lachlan, one of the 4 kids, is perfectly willing to continue running the business, this way, as, fear, hate, racism, misogyny, outrage, the stuff that Fox is relatively famous for. But the other 3 are saying, no, we want to turn it back into a kind of a legitimate news source. Conservative tilt is fine, but, not this crazy stuff. And so Rupert went to court in Reno, Nevada, to family court, probate court, and said, I want to break the family trust. Now, we don't know yet what the result of that is. And if Rupert loses, I'm guessing he will probably appeal. And that will be interesting. But the bottom line is that right now, people watching Fox News are blissfully unaware that the fate and future of the channel that they rely on for, their battles with, with their friends and neighbors, their attempts to win the water cooler wars, that network may be undergoing some really significant changes in the next, who knows how many years. I mean, Rupert's 92 right now. Jimmy Carter's going to turn 100 next week, next Tuesday. Living to 100 is not a big deal any longer, or at least it's not, shocking or all that unusual. So, it might be a while, but, you just never know. But the bottom line is that, Fox News viewers have been kind of kept in the dark, and that's where we're at. So anyhow, the piece is published over at HartmannReport.com. You can read it for free. It's Is This the Week Fox So-Called News Faces Its Reckoning? Something that you will not be hearing about on Fox News. Or probably most of the rest of the media. The media just doesn't like to cover the media, it seems. I'll be right back with more of the news of the day. Who's better for the economy, and when will they ever learn? Stay tuned.